Hey guys, this is Sergeant Phoenix back in the action, and today we are doing another deck profile, and thank you for hitting 20 subscribers to this channel, and soon enough, I'm only waiting for one more card to complete my Yugioh deck, and I have been working on that deck for a very long time, so I've managed to get it up to scratch. I had a few of the old ones when I first started dueling, I actually managed to get Shooting Star and Shooting Quasar from packs, and that's very lucky for you. But I didn't even know what they were until I watched 5Ds until I got the hang of dueling properly. So, I'm only waiting for one more card to come in when I bought, and that's it. So today I'm going to do a deck profile on Yugiohs. I have mentioned on my previous videos, I do like Yugiohs. They're not as meta as they used to be. In the old days, when tournaments first started, when Yu-Gi-Oh first started, Yugiohs were beyond powerful. They were meta-classed. And meta-class practically means overpowered beyond the limits of dueling. But they're not anymore. They're more like your decent decks nowadays. Because nowadays we have decks that work on negation and summonings pretty much all the time. And damaging your opponent as best as possible. So, I'll do my deck profile. I have put, and it's for both GX and Arc 5 season, because I have both the deck archetypes in this deck. So first, we'll start off with the signature, Yugioh Golem. There are 3, but I've only added 2 because of Ultimate Pound. It works the same way, except this has an additional effect. So Yugioh Golem's a level 8 with 3000 attack and defense. It cannot be special summoned, so you can't summon it back from your graveyard. But you can special summon it because some of the cards allow you ignoring summoning conditions, so you could summon this. So if this card attacks a defense monster, you can inflict piercing damage on your opponent. And what makes Yugiohs really good, depending on what opponent you're up against, is that they nearly all have this effect. When it attacks, your opponent cannot activate any spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step. So practically Mirror Force, Magic Cylinder, Negate Attack, they're all useless. So it's what made these decks really powerful in the old days. You had to rely on your monsters and your monster effects back in the day. And that's what you do nowadays, really. Next we have Ultimate Pound. It works the same way, but except it has, like I said, has the additional effect. So, same effect, up to twice per turn when this attacking card destroys a monster in battle, you can discard 1 machine monster. This card gains an attack in a row. So let's say I have 5, my opponent has 5 monsters, I have 5 Yugioh monsters in my hand, I can just keep discarding them and just keep attacking. Even if they're in defense, if this thing's strong enough, I can practically deal out a lot of damage. And if this card is on the field destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can add 1 polymerization from your deck to your hand. And if you do, add 1 other Yugioh monster from your graveyard to your hand. So you could have Golem again. If Golem was in your graveyard, it stops you from special summoning it, but you could still add it to your hand. So that's what makes this deck good. Next, another signature, Yugioh Soldier. And it has only the additional effect when it attacks, spells and traps can't be activated. And it only has 1300. They pretty much all have the same attack and defense except this one. Yugioh Knight, and this is a Gemini monster. So when you summon it first, it's treated as a normal monster. But when it's faced up on the field or in the graveyard, while this card's normal summoned on the field, so the next turn it's on the field, I can normal summon it again and give it the effect. And its effect is the same when this card attacks, your opponent can activate spell or traps. You can have that deck. You can have it in your deck if you want, but this deck's not as powerful. If you want to make this deck strong, you need to find new ways to make it stronger. Next, we have Yugioh Box. Unlike the others, this one has 2000 defense and 500, but it's good because you can use it with the Yugioh Knight. Reason being, it doesn't have the attack ability because it's not built for attacks. But if this card's added from your deck or graveyard to your hand, except by drawing it, you can add an Earth attribute monster, which is a machine with 5000 attack and or defense. So I could summon the Knight. summon the knight and add it to my hand, except Yugioh box, and I can only activate that effect once per turn. So those two cards do work well together depending on what you're doing. Next we have, now we're up to our Arc V series cards. This is a Yugioh Wyvern. What makes this card good is if it's normal or special summoned, you can add an Yugioh card from your deck to your hand, except Yugioh Wyvern. Also, you cannot set cards for the rest of the turn. You can only use this effect though once per turn. If this card attacks, your opponent's monsters cannot activate their effects until the end of the damage step. So that works for monsters, not spells and traps. So your opponent could have a chance there. But I usually use that to summon out my other cards as well. Another one. And this does make the deck really good. Yugioh Hunting Hound. The reason being, if this card is normal summoned, it inflicts 600 points of damage to your opponent. If this card attacks, your opponent can activate any spell or traps during the end of the etc, etc. And this is what makes this card powerful, if you play it right. Once per turn, you can fusion summon one Yugioh fusion monster from your extra deck by using monsters in your hand or field as possible as fusion materials. So this, you could even use it so you wouldn't need polymerization. You could add 3 in, but it depends. Because you'd have to make a way to summon that thing out and keep bringing it back constantly if you wanted to. Next we have Yugioh Engineer. This is back to 5Ds. Sorry, not 5Ds, GX. Negate any trap card effects that target this card, and if you do, destroy that trap card. If this card attacks, your opponent can activate spells and traps, like it says. At the end of the damage step, though, if this card attacked, target one spell or trap card your opponent controls and destroy it. And this one, I have used a lot of times to beat my opponents. Yugioh Beast. It can't be special summoned, and when it attacks, it has a spell and trap effect. But the best thing about this one is you could use this on Cyberjar and other ones that need destroying effects. Because normally you have your cards, if they're destroyed, they can summon out something else. But this card, during the end of the damage step, negate the effects of your opponent's monsters destroyed by battle with this card, including in the graveyard. So this pretty much cancels the effects of any destroyed monster it attacks. So if your opponent wants you to attack it and destroy it, he won't be able to use its effects. So it's a clever calculation. Now we're up to our spells. The one and only Yugioh Castles. And with this card, any monsters with the words Yugioh in their name on either player's field gain 300 attack points. And each time a monster is normal summoned or set, you can place a counter on this card. Also, what makes this card really good, I can use this to summon Yugioh Golems on my other high-level monsters. The reason being, because if you want to summon a level 5 or higher Yugioh monster, so Golem needs 2, if I have 2 counters on this card or more, I can just send that to the graveyard with those counters and summon the Golem. So it's what makes that deck really good. So I could have, let's say I have 8 counters on the thing and I just draw a Golem. That pretty much gives me the reason I can summon Golem right away. Next, Yugioh Workshop, and this lets you target an Yugioh monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. I have 3 of them just in case, like Hunting Hound or in case I need the box. Next, we have Yugioh Fortress, and this is a decently done one. During the turn they were normal or special summoned, your opponent cannot target Yugioh monsters you control with card effects, and they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to the activation of Yugioh cards and effects. If this card is destroyed in the spell and trap card zone, you can special summon one Yugioh monster from your hand or graveyard. Also, you cannot special summon monsters the rest of the turn except Yugioh monsters. So this practically could give your Yugiohs a slight advantage. But if you have no monsters in your hand or field and you want to summon out something really powerful, if let's say your let's say if you do have monsters in your hand, but they're all, let's say, H&G golems and beast and engineers, that card, this card, and this card are a perfect combo. Reason being, Catapult. While you control no monsters, target one H&G, target one face-up card in yours you control and destroy it. Sorry. While you control no monsters on your field, you can target one card on your field that's face up and destroy it. And if you do, special summon one H&G monster from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. So I could summon Golem if I wanted to. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one face up card you control, destroy it. And if you do, special summon one H&G token, and this is its reasons. You only use the effect of H&G Catapult effect per turn and only once that turn. You could have more of these if you wanted, but I rarely use this one, so. And if you wanted to get rid of some cards, you ought to put more of these in, I would. H&G Drill. I have got more of them, but I rarely use it. And you can activate this by discarding one card, and you have to have a face-up H&G monster to do it. With this, you can choose any spell card from your deck, set it, and you can't activate this turn. So you could use any spell card you wanted. Next, Polymerization, which lets you fusion some monsters from your hand or field to fusions. Future Fusion. This card used to be banned, but it's not anymore, so that's a good thing. So during the first standby phase after this card's activation, show the face-up monster in your extra deck and send the fusion materials listed on it from your main deck to the graveyard. During your second standby phase, after this card's activation, fusion summon that one fusion monster with the same of that. So let's say I wanted to summon one H&G fusion like Ultimate Golem. I select the first turn, the first standby phase this is on. I show it to my opponent. I send 3 H&G monsters at but one of them has to be Golem to the graveyard. On the second turn, it's summoned to the field and it's listed as it's fusion summoned. But end target it with this card. So it's like an attachment. When this card leaves the field, destroy that target. When that target is destroyed, destroy this card. So if one goes, the other goes. Next we have Overlord Fusion, and I have used this card a lot of times. And if you're wondering why a Dark Machine monster, because of the fusion monster in this deck, which is a Dark type. And it is beyond powerful. It's OP. It is quite OP, which is beyond overpowering for decks. And I'll show you it. I don't want to tell you because, if you know what it is, then you know what I'm talking about. But if you don't, just have a wait to show. The fusion, this practically sends one of your fusion monsters back to your extra deck and it summons all your fusion materials back, what you used. So let's say I had an H&G fusion that needed 3 H&G monsters and I used 3 H&G soldiers. This will summon those soldiers back. And it's a quick spell so I could use it anytime I want. And I practically could use that to wipe out my opponent in one turn if they didn't play anything. If they had only spell and trap cards in the field, I summoned that monster, and I dealt nearly 3,000 points of damage. If I play my cards right, I could wipe my opponent out in all those attacks. Swords of Revealing Light, and everyone should know what this card does. Stops your opponent from attacking for 3 turns, and it flips all your opponent's monsters face up if they're face down. Limiter Removal, and with this card, the attack points of all your machines on the turn are doubled. And during the end phase, they're destroyed. Traps. And traps are alright. This deck's not built on traps really, but they do have some. First we have H&G Reborn, and you should really only have one of these in the deck, because of its effects. Once per turn, if you control no monster, you can target one H&G monster in your graveyard, special summon it, and if you do, it gains 200 attack. Even if this card leaves the field, you can only control one H&G Reborn, and I only. So pretty much you can only have one, but I only have one because I still don't really use it. cross-dimensional duels. And if you look carefully, you can see H&G Golem, and that's the player who uses them in the GX season Crowler. The background's the field spell Skyscraper. We have Elemental Hero Flame Wingman and Jade and Yuka. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Crowler's the one who uses the H&Gs, and Jane's the main hero of the GX season using Elemental Heroes. If you haven't watched it, watch it. A lot of people love it better than the original. The original is good, but 5Ds is my favourite. The original's second. GX, it's GX to Zexal, which is third. I think it's mostly GX, which is my third favourite, and Zexal is my fourth. I wasn't a big fan of Arc 5, but I'm waiting for Lynx to see how they do it. I've watched the subs, I just need to see how the dubs are going, pretty much. But this card's effect, target one H&G monster you control, banish it. During that next standby phase, return the banished monster to the field, and if you do, its attack points become doubled its original. So Golem could have 6,000 points if I chose Golem. If that turn, if one or more H&G Golem or H&G Golem Ultimate Pound you control would be destroyed by battle or card effects, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So this does work for the Golems. So let's say my opponent does actually use Elemental Hero Fling Wingman, I can stop it being destroyed. Next, we have two magic cylinders. Target one monster when one of your opponent's monster declares an attack. Target it, stop the attack, and inflict its attack points to your opponent's damage. Again, a card everybody uses. If you don't use it, you should really use it. Nobody expects anyone to still use the card, so it's quite good to use. Zero Gravity, and this is good because I could play my Golems in defense mode if I've got them. If my opponent has all of his monsters in attack, all cards, because of this card, switch their modes, including mine and my opponent. So if all mine are on defense, they go to attack, and if all my opponents are on attack, they go to defense. Next, I have Quaking Mirror Force. When my opponent's monster declares an attack, change all my opponent's attack position monsters to face down defense, and they cannot be changed no matter what. So they're stuck in defense, which would give Golem all my piercing damage monsters quite a decent go. Next, I have Storming Mirror Force. When an opponent's monster declares an attack, return all your opponent's attack position monsters to the hand. You could use this on Lynx as well, but that would send them back to the extra deck. And we're finally up to fusions, and I also added a link to this deck. It's not a powerful link, but it's just to show. First, we have one of my favourites, H&G Howitzer. It only needs 2 H&G monsters, and its effect is unaffected by other card effects. So pretty much only the fusion card. Let's say I use Power Bond, it'll double its attack, but it'll destroy it. During your main phase, you can inflict 1,000 points of damage to your opponent, but you can only activate this card once per turn. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one H&G monster from your deck, ignoring summoning conditions. So I can only have one of these on the field, and I have used these to damage my opponent quite a bit. It's like, and that can stall you for a little bit in case your opponent doesn't have a way of destroying it with effects. So he'll need to attack you. But it's a gamble in case I summon out a card that'll help me. Next, we have 3 Ultimate H&G Golems using the GX one. That was an Art 5 one. This card is good because it needs 1 H&G Golem and 2 H&G monsters, so you only need 1 H&G Golem. I managed to have 1 on shiny and 1 not. Must be fusion summoned. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. If this card attacks, your opponent can activate spell or trap cards. And if this card is destroyed, you can target 1 H&G monster in your graveyard, special summon it, ignoring summoning conditions. If you had this with limiter removal or power bond, you'll have an amazingly powerful card. I've actually used Power Bond in this deck when I used to run it. I still have it, but I don't really use it. And I managed to use limiter removal with it as well. You could wipe your opponent out in a single attack. It's lucky though, you have to be lucky. Next we have Yugioh Mechaton Golem. And this isn't actually in the art. I haven't seen this in the... This was never in the GX season, and it's actually never been in the Art 5 season as far as I know. I haven't seen all of Art 5, but I've never seen it being used. But it's, it might have been, it might. I doubt it was. But, it's still a good card. Reason being, it only needs 3 Yugioh monsters. If this card attacks, your opponent can activate spell traps during the end of the back damage step, so it has that effect. If this card was fusion summoned using 2 or more Yugioh Golems or Yugioh Ultimate Pounds as fusion materials, this card attack up to that many times during the battle phase. So let's say I use 3 Golems, it'll gain 3 attack. It gets 3 attacks instead of 1. If this face fusion card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon one ultimate Yugioh Golem from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. So these two work together perfectly. So practically my opponent would have to think, so if he or she used an effect, send this away from the field, they would have to stop, that would let me summon that would allow me to summon my ultimate golem. So they'd have to use an effect again to get rid of it. But they'd just have to make sure it isn't a destroying one. Next, this is the OP card. A Dark Machine with 4,500 attack and 3,000 defense. And the reason this card is overpowered, despite needing 4 Yugioh monsters, which makes it a bit easier for you, is its effects. It must be special fusion summon. It cannot be special summoned by other ways. Unaffected by spell or trap cards. Your opponent monsters cannot activate their effects during the battle phase. If this card can attack all your opponent's monsters once each. So I could attack all my opponent's monsters in a single strike. And if this card attacks a defense monster, it inflicts piercing damage to your opponent. So this card can be the overpower for the entire deck. So if you've got this card on the field and your opponent's barely got an army of monsters, you can stop their effects and stop your opponent using spell or traps against you because it's unaffected by spell and traps. So that card can give you a way overpowered advantage. But you'd have to make sure you summon it after your opponent summons out a ton of monsters, because that's what I normally do. I always build up a good defence, so I always convince my opponent to send. Which I've done. I just told my opponent, I just whispered in my head for my opponents to just summon all their monsters out on the field, because that's what I was wanting. Because if they summon out an army of monsters, I can just easily wipe them all out in a single blast with one monster's attack. Oh yeah, I have 2 of the links, but 2 of the tokens, but I should only have 1. But it's just in case. And this is the link I've chose to use. It's not a powerful link, but it's still a decent one. Its effects are, it needs 2 machine monsters. Hold on. This link summoned card is unaffected by spell or trap effects. And the activation effects of other link monsters once per turn, you can target one face-up card on each player's field except this card. Both those cards have their effects negated until the end of this turn. When 2 monsters are special summoned at the same time to the zone this card points to, you can add 1 level 5 or higher machine monster from your deck to your hand. So you could add Golem and all sorts. So it's a decent card to have. And that's it. That's my Yugioh deck. So like I've said, Yugiohs used to be good. And I'm talking about I talked about the very beginning of dueling. Most of your duelists, like your newbies, they haven't even heard of this card, which insulted me a little bit. They actually do a joke about it because they bring these on the 5D series with someone using them because he summons 3 Yugiohs in one turn. And they do mention, the kids in the class mention they've never heard of those cards. But one of the lads actually mentions he's read about the card, but he's talking about pro professionals and like years and years ago. And it's like that with today. You read about this card being used, but it's from your pros, like tournament regional champions, like from the very beginning of dueling when it first came out. It is still it can still be a powerful deck if you use it correctly. But the problem is with them, there's not really many supports for Ancient Gears. Other than helping you add them and fusion, they've got the deck is they have no links. They've barely got any fusion tactics for negation. So you'd have to be really lucky when using this deck. So that's why really nobody uses it anymore. But you still have it. People still have them because they like Ancient Gears. I still like Ancient Gears. They were my favourite deck in the GX season. When Art 5 came out with them, I actually got a little excited. Perhaps there was hope for the season. They did the decks quite well, but, they could have done them a lot better. Some of the cards they didn't even release. Like the fusion of like the fusion summon of Hunting Hound, where it had like 2 heads and stuff. And I think they should have actually done that. It would have made it a bit better. It probably would have been a bit better. But again, comment on your opinion of this deck. If you've got ideas though of how to comment, I know what it needs. I do know what it needs though to make the deck better. But if you can think of any ideas to make the deck better for other players out there, comment down below. And have and see if you can help other people. Who still love this deck and still want to. It doesn't matter if you're a pro or a first beginner. I was a first beginner. I had no idea what to do. The first decks I ever used when it came to stories were Ancient Gears. They were the very first deck I started with. So it's not as powerful and not really as worth much, but it's still sentimental. But a card I would get though is Ancient Gear Fusion. It does have a fusion card because it's good. It's good because of its effects. It lets you fusion summon Ancient Gear, but if you have Ancient Gear Golem or Ultimate Pound on the field, you can use Ancient Gear monsters from your deck as well. So it has its good side. So it has got a decent support. I'm going to try and get that card myself. But again, comment down below. Give us some likes. See if we can get some more subscribers so I can do some more deck profiles and more gameplay. And soon, and I do mean soon, probably like in a couple of days or something, I will do a whole deck profile on Yusei Fudo's story deck. And it's how I've done the deck, of the deck cards I've been able to get. The last card I've been able to get is Reed Butterfly. And Yusei actually did have that card. If you look up on the episode Primo's Plan, part 1, when they fight the army of ghost robots. And if you don't know what's going to go on there, watch 5Ds as fast as you can. And that's season 2. I have mentioned 5D's my favourite one. I do love 5Ds more than any duelist. A lot of people didn't like it because they lost interest after GX. Which is understandable. With some of the series they went a bit overboard, some went a bit stupid. But 5Ds was my favourite. Again, it'll always be my favourite. But still, comment down below and actually discuss what seasons you liked, if you have like an order or something. I've already told you, man. 5Ds, the original, GX, Zexal. I'm still going between Art 5 of Vrains, until I've watched the Vrains dub. I've watched some of the subs, so I need to watch the dubs just to see how they do it. Because my opinion is on both sub and dub. So comment down below. Please like and subscribe. So this is Sergeant Phoenix, over and out.